Very fortunate to get you to pop in because you're typically busier than one-legged man in the old butt-kicking contest, they say. But and you are busy, not to say you're not. You're going to get out and enjoy the great outdoors, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm going to go fishing this afternoon.
Gary wants to go with you.
I know.
Gary's
he told me.
Big fisherman, but Gary's going to spend his day with that frustrating game of golf, is what I understand. So we appreciate you coming in. Jim Durrett, if you don't know him, is a big fan of this show. I just wanted to share with you.
I don't listen to your show because I don't like you.
Yeah, we just always...
I don't listen to your show because I don't like
Thanks,
you.
Hank.
Yeah, he's always a big fan. No, I'm just kidding. That was so hilarious that day. I'll never forget it. But anyway, thanks for coming in. And, boy, I tell you, things are awfully busy in the city. We had new Councilman Dave Allen with us last week. He's getting fairly acclimated with what's going on within the city. I don't know that I've seen so much go on in such a short period of time. And I know it wasn't just a short period of time in the making. But you've been a long-time city public servant, been involved with the city for many years. Your family. How would you comment, or how would you look back and see where we're at, where we've come, the HSC announcement, where we're headed?
I tell you, we are busy, and it is a lot going on. And, you know, it's just, I don't know, Hank. It's just, I have a great feeling inside of me, and I sense that with a lot of people that I talk to just about where Clarksville is and where we appear to be going. We've made some huge leaps and bounds in the last few years, and I don't see that slowing down a whole lot. You know, with HSC, I just see bigger and better things starting to happen.
Yeah, and it will take a little time, obviously, for the residual, I think, of that announcement and that plant to really show up, and we're awfully busy. Traffic's awfully thick. We do have the struggles of a community that is growing and active. More troops are coming home. We're seeing that over the last several weeks, and so other troops are expected home. So what are some of the day-to-day things, week-to-week things that the city is always inundated with, or the requests or the complaints, the calls of, you know, what we need to do or what are the problems? And I know that you ride point for the mayor on a lot of that. What are some of the things that are keeping you awfully busy here lately?
Well, obviously the marina has been a big focal point for us, and we've been real busy with it over the last 30 days, really last year, to be honest. But the last 30 days we've been wrapping up some property purchases, the old JC building. We've had to go out into the county and buy some property to mitigate some of the wetlands and the streams that are affected, and so I've been real involved in that. And we're having a March 26th. I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure that we've got the Riverview confirmed. We're having a public unveiling of that project. And it's going to be really nice. It's going to let the public come down and look, see a PowerPoint presentation. We're going to have boards all around the room and be able to ask questions and stuff like that. So the marina's been, it's been pretty high on our radar. The mayor has some, he definitely wants it open by October of 2010, and so we're pushing real hard to meet that date. And it's just a lot going on with it.
When will we start seeing anything going on down there?
You'll definitely see, I think you'll start seeing some dirt move in July.
Not everyone is in favor of that. Obviously, if everybody agreed with everything we did, it would be pretty boring. And not all the council is really in favor of that. And even some of the new council members, you know, have made it clear that they're not in favor of it. But it is there. It is happening. And it will be obviously a real showpiece. But you can also tell that that section of town is also showing some growth as we make our way out to the county.
Exactly.
So I think that once it's up and operating and so forth, folks will forget that there were those that were not all that in favor of it. I know I'm a bit bothered by folks who make the comment that, you know, the city is not involved in quality of life issues.
Yeah.
How do you respond to that? You've been a public servant for a long time. You've had the calls of, you know, at the street department forever that you've got these problems, we're going to do this and we're going to improve that. You know, how does that make you feel when folks say that government should not be involved in quality of life issues?
Well, I don't agree with that, because I think government has to take the lead role in that. And if we take the lead role in that, then people are going to follow. You know, and as far as the marina goes, I know there's a lot of people that don't have boats. A lot of people that don't care about having a boat. A lot of people don't care anything about the water, but that project is not only the marina, but it's the Fairgrounds Park too. And that, to me, is as exciting what we're doing at the park as what the marina is. I mean, we're building a beautiful building out on the point of the river that'll probably seat somewhere between 80 and 100 people. People will be able to go out there, have weddings, have meetings, do all kinds of stuff, family reunions. All the pavilions are being enhanced. We're going to end up with an amphitheater and a new Wilma Rudolph pavilion with a new arena. And it's just, I mean, those are big things that a lot of people are that they're saying the marina, but the marina is bigger than the marina.
Right. And we determined, or it was determined, that the water park was not a good fit for that. How did that come about? Or maybe not at this time it was not a good fit?
Well, I think the water park is still going to be a reality, but the reality is it would not fit on that site. For it to fit on the fairground site, we would have had to do away with Wilma Rudolph Pavilion or the amphitheater or something like that, because that's obviously a lot of the things that are going to be in the park can be in the 100-year floodplain, like those pavilions. They're going to get mud in them. We'll have to wash them out. But a water park, I don't think you want the river getting up over a water park.
Oh, absolutely not. And we know how it floods out down there so bad. So what are we doing about that? We're dredging up in there where it floods the most?
Well, yeah, and it's still going to flood. I mean, but the marina is going to be, you know, all the docks will go up and down with the river because it's just the nature of the river. You know, we have a summer pool and a winter pool, so the docks will go up and down, and if water gets up into the park, it's going to get up into the park. But now it's not going to stay in the park like it used to. It really wasn't a good way for it to get out of the park. So now it's going to be able to get out of the park.
Chief of Staff Jim Durrett, our guest. Your calls and comments are welcome. This is Clarksville in Review. We'll be right back. Joining us here on Clarksville in Review, our guest this hour is Chief of Staff Jim Durrett of the city of Clarksville, and we have a caller. Good morning. Hello, JZM.
Yeah, I was just wondering, when will the pavilion be done?
All right, the pavilion, I guess.
I couldn't hear him.
When will the pavilion be done? I'm sorry.
Well, we're basically what we're doing with the marina and Fairgrounds Park is the marina has been our focus, and those plans are about to wind up, and a lot of the pavilion out on the point, we're calling it the Point Pavilion right now. I'm sure it'll get some name. But the big pavilion, the old Wilma Rudolph Pavilion, they'll start design on that probably within the next month and a half. And so it's just going to be a continuing project. But the dirt that we're taking out of where the hole's going for the marina, a lot of that dirt's going up where the old pavilion used to be. So when we're putting it there in anticipation of the building going there. So we're grading for it and all that.
So where are the Quantics going to have the rodeo?
Not sure.
Yeah, somebody asked me that the other day.
We've been looking.
Yeah.
We've been looking.
That's curious.
Yeah.
Probably Gary's backyard wouldn't be too bad.
It'd be good.
You know.
Be good.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting. So we don't know yet.
No, I think they've got a couple of sites that they looked at, and they're just kind of working through the details on those sites.
Jim Durrett, our guest, City of Clarksville Chief of Staff. The convention center is being studied again. The council approved, I think, some money to study that.
Yep.
I like a convention center. We're getting more and more sort of meeting areas and banquet halls here, I'm learning. What do you think about a convention center, and what will it take, you think, for the community to buy into that?
Well, what I think about it is I think we need one, and I've thought that a long time. I think that's one of the things that Clarksville's missing. I think there's more buy-in from the community now than what it was in the past, and I think the route that we're looking is a lot more, probably in the right word, but digestible for the general public by looking at a public-private partnership as opposed to the city operating the actual convention center. When it was done, a study was done years ago. I guess it's been, 8 years, 10 years ago, and there was a lot of make-to-do about whether or not it was going to make money or not make money. It's going to lose money. You know, it's just going to be this big thorn in our side. But I think the route that we're looking now by doing a public-private partnership, I think the public will accept that. And you know, sometimes you gotta do things to make things happen, and that's kind of what we did with the marina. I mean,
right.
it's a public-private partnership. And I think, I didn't say this, Hank, but the marina itself, I think we'll see a lot of spinoff from that. I really do. And I think we'll see Riverside Drive slowly start to change and become a more pedestrian-friendly area. I think you'll see more eateries coming along through there. And, we're working on Phase 2 master plan now, the Riverwalk, to connect it from the pedestrian overpass to the marina. And, I mean, it's just exciting. We bought the Pressler property. We're going to do something down there at the confluence of the Red and the Cumberland River. So, I mean, it's a lot going on, like you said.
9:23 is our time. Jim Durrett is our guest. And, yes, it's hard to kind of get in the way of progress, and we know everyone knows how better to spend the money than those who are actually in charge of spending the money. What I've noticed is that once something has made its way through the controversy and the vote and the actual development, is that you look back on it like, well, what was the big deal?
Yeah.
I always go back to, annexing St. B, how that cost Ted Crozier, the mayor's office, or, annexing this or that, or the development from there out to Exit 4. And now everyone is just, it's the norm. We wouldn't be any other way. How do we, and we've talked to the mayor and other public officials about this a lot, how do you relate to folks when it comes to public-private partnerships, when it comes to selling the public on ideas that will improve the quality of life for the community, and maybe not necessarily to you personally? I can remember all the controversy over the golf courses several years ago.
Oh, yeah.
And the money being spent on the course or doing this and that and the other. I don't play golf. I ain't into golf.
Right.
Don't even like golfers, And so, okay, I understand that. I respect that. The marina. I ain't got a boat. I don't ski. I don't fish. I don't like people who have boats. So we don't want a marina. So how do we get folks on the same sheet of music about, the quality of life, the improvement of your community for the benefit of the community, and not necessarily just for you or for women or for golfers or for shoppers or for folks who like to eat out or whatever?
Well, I think a lot of it's education, because a lot of times the people that are opposed to a lot of these things don't know all the details and don't know all the facts behind them. I tell you a perfect example. There was so much negative stuff about Strawberry Alley, Legion Street, and the fountain. The fountain was front page news. It was all over the blogs. Everybody was talking about the fountain. Well, the city said, okay, look, we're going to do it. We're going to take the heat for it. And then look what happened. Somebody stepped up and paid for the fountain. So, I mean, you got to just, you can't just sit back and do nothing, because then they're going to complain about you doing nothing. So you got to do something. And I really think that the majority of the people, and I shouldn't say majority, but a lot of the people that are opposed to a lot of these projects don't know what the project truly is.
Right.
And let me say one more thing before you ask a question. Ted Crozier, you mentioned his name. He's very ill right now. And I just hope everybody will be thinking about him and praying for him.
I talked to him last week, and he had a bit of a cough or something, but I didn't know that he was
pretty serious.
Well, I didn't know that. Well, I'll have to check on him. I appreciate you telling us that. I love Ted Crozier. All right, we're talking with Jim Durrett, our city chief of staff, and we had talked a little bit about the study that's being done about a convention center. And when that comes back, obviously the city will move on that one way or the other. And you bring up a good point, I think, about Strawberry Alley and that fountain and how it came about to be, what is it, the Ajax Fountain, the Ajax Turner Fountain?
Right.
It was named after Ajax Turner. And, of course, the Turner family stepped up and did that. You have to make things happen. Anyone who's in business, and I don't always want to reference that, it's my own experience. If you're in business, if you sit back and expect you're going to get a government check every month, or you're going to, things are just going to come your way, it just doesn't happen. So you have to make things happen. When you make things happen, obviously people will buy into that. I think we're living proof of that. Let's talk about an issue that came up last week and see if you have any idea about what to do about it. We had a lot of calls with Pastor Allen here last week about the racetrack. I don't ever give the racetrack the time of day. I never think about it. I can hear it.
So can I.
I can hear it over where I live. And I used to hear it even worse, years aago from before we moved. It apparently came up, and I don't know if the callers ever got to the city and asked them what to do about it, that, the racetrack, I don't know if you've heard it, but the racetrack apparently they're supposed to shut down at midnight and they don't, or there's still things going on over there to wait 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. There's no police, there's no law enforcement, whatever. Do you know anything about when they're supposed to stop operations on the weekend or what that's all
No,
about?
I actually don't. I don't. I know I don't live too far from it, and I hear it. And I think one of the problems is that area has really developed out there over the last 5 or 10 years, and the racetrack's been there. I know you're real old, but it's probably been there longer than you've been here. So
are you talking to me?
But it's been around.
That on tape.
It's
now
been
I got
around
that
a while.
with how big a fan he is of the show. Let's take a caller. Good morning. Hello, JZM. All right. Well, if you have a call or a comment, 645-6414 or star 1400. That's a free call if you're an AT&T wireless customer. Obviously, everybody tells me we're just covered up with our commitment to HSC. How much of that do you have your hands in, and what sort of things are you having to monitor so far as, putting up our end of the deal for HSC?
Well, the big part is the utility aspect of it, and gas and water's got a pretty big role in that. And so we've been involved with gas and water and the state as far as being able to make sure that as we proceed that we're going to do the right thing so we can get reimbursed from the state on a lot of this. So, but I'm somewhat out of the picture now, and it's really kind of in gas and water's hands right now. But we stay abreast of what's going on.
Cool. Good morning. Hello, JZM. Hello, JZM. All righty. When you call, I say hello, you say hello, and you ask a question. Evidently, someone's trying to call off the air, and I'll be off at 10 o'clock if you want to give me a buzz. Jim Durrett is with us. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to go back to the racetrack for a minute. I personally hadn't had any calls, and probably Monday I'll start getting them because I just said that.
Pastor Allen may have gotten some calls after he left. He did get some calls while he was here on the show, and it's just, I don't know, it's just something you forget about.
Yeah, and I think it's something we need to look into. We need to look into their operating hours, and if they're supposed to shut down at midnight, then they need to start shutting down at midnight.
That was our understanding, and I'm sure the police department would be responsible for that.
Yeah.
I guess. I don't know. Jim Durrett is with us, and we're going to talk some more city business in a moment. If you have any calls or comments, feel free to ring us up, and when I answer the phone and say hello, you go ahead and talk. We'd love to hear from you. We'll be back after this. Jim Durrett is our guest. He is the Chief of Staff of the City of Clarksville. What is the mayor's office? I should say, what is the city's take on all the CDE news? And I realize that the city and the mayor's office obviously keeps up, is very interested, obviously, where there's public dollars involved and whatever. And we know that they've kind of gotten off to an interesting start. Difficult to start, to say the least. Overwhelmingly approved. 75% of the voters wanted them to do this. Now they're into it. I sense that there is somewhat of a change in that vibe because of the publicity. And the story this week, which was... it was what it was, and I comment about it on my weekly blog this week in Clarksville about I couldn't find the story. Is there a position in the mayor's office about what we're reading or what we may be seeing or hearing about what's going on at CDE?
Well, I can't speak for the mayor, but I think there is a feeling, and I can't speak for the city council either, but I do get some vibes that there's some concerns from the mayor and the city council about some of the things that have happened out at CDE over the past 6 to 8 months, and some of the things that have become public knowledge that maybe the mayor and city council didn't know about. So, I think there is some concern there.
What I've learned, I've talked, and I stay in touch with the Power Board, especially the Chairman Wayne Wilkinson, about, making sure that what we're hearing or seeing is as accurate as it needs to be, and it typically is not, and that's unfortunate. But it seems to me that this particular board, this existing board, and this existing management, which we have new management, Rick Ingram and Christy Batts and all those who... And you may be able to comment. It seems to me that they sort of inherited, the situation that they inherited, and now they're at the point of trying to work their way through it before they can actually get, to where they would like to be with that particular venture. And I know some skeptics will say, well, that's just an excuse, or that's just an old, blame it on somebody else kind of thing. But it's becoming more and more evident that that is the case. They did not ask for enough money. They were not told about, whatever.
I think you hit the nail on the head.
Right.
I honestly believe that the board, the makeup of the board, and the general manager Rick and Christy, I believe they'll turn that thing around. But it's not going to happen overnight, and it's my belief that they inherited so much of this stuff, and as the further they go into it, they're finding out different things, right. And so they're just, you can't. They didn't build Rome in a day, and they're not going to turn that thing around in a day. But I think the management's in place to do it,
and it goes way back. And I don't mean just the last year or so. And I want to say it goes way back because I have a personal experience of an ex-board member who, the day he resigned, got up and walked out of a board meeting. I mean, cornered me, and absolutely burnt my ears about that whole thing. And I'm not going to get into names and this, that, and the other about, who was running City Hall and this, and that, and whatever. It was quite a revelation. In other words, just to sum it up, it was a we do what we want to do kind of thing. And former board members have mentioned that, in those days, board meetings were maybe 20 minutes. Here's a report. Here's the way it is. Thanks for coming. Have a Coke. See you next month. And that is not the situation today. The story this week about relationships and the no-bid contract sort of thing, and I tried to clear that up on the air. And I'm not dissing Eric Snyder or the paper. The paper does a lot of good work, and people don't recognize it. They always want to hammer the paper, and that's fine. The no-bid contract, number one, was not required to be bid. All right, using the term no bid is a buzz point, kind of.
I agree.
The implication is somebody did something wrong, and they didn't. The other thing is the contract itself has not been executed. And apparently they knew that it had not been executed, but it was in the article anyway. The other thing is, it's not uncommon. You were running this street department forever. It is not uncommon, as Wayne Wilkinson had mentioned, that you know all these people in this business.
That's right.
And typically in business, you're going to work with folks you know and trust and who do good work and so forth and so on. So we don't have a situation where it needed to be bid, and we have a situation where, okay, we know these people, they do this, they do good work, I trust them, I know them, and so forth. So as I get through that story, I'm wondering, where is the story in that situation? Yeah. But it fired up a lot of folks. Have you heard comment about it?
I've heard a little bit, but, just to touch on what you said, a lot of people don't realize that professional services, they're not bid items. They're not like going out and buying 10 police cars. Professional services are professional services. And there's actually, there's some rules and regulations that deal with how you procure a professional service, and one of the things that it says that a lot of people don't realize is that price should not be a consideration. So in other words, when you're looking at a professional service, you're looking at that firm or that individual's capabilities of being able to produce what you want them to produce. And you're not supposed to look at price. Price can be a consideration, but it should not be the determining factor.
Yeah, and when it has to be bid, that obviously is a big deal.
Exactly.
And we've learned that with the HSC and so forth in the bidding out process. And I know I've heard some rumblings from a part of this community that, and I'm not going to identify it, but they're a part of this community that ain't never happy and how that all went. But nonetheless, I know they have their problems. I'm sort of on a mission to just, it's more difficult to find all the good. It's more difficult to find the good and positive things to really talk about, spend your time about. It's just too easy, in my opinion, to always clicking on the downside. And I realize that, we need listeners, and they need readers, and they need viewers. And we realize TV has turned into just garbage when it comes to journalism anymore. And that, sensational. They run these videos all day long and these things you see on YouTube, whatever. But with CDE, I've been supporters of them forever. I mean, because, I feel as though there are good people involved in that utility, and I feel especially on this board there are good people involved in this utility. And number three, I just don't think anybody's that stupid, to do something like that, that would bring them down, and especially that would reflect on the mayor and the city council.
Yeah. I just, I'm not going to get into a big controversy with the media and all that stuff, but I'll just talk about the weather a little bit. The weather is so sensationalized now that, and that's what it's all about. I mean, if you can sensationalize it, then people are going to read it, people are going to listen, people are going to tune to it, and I'm like you, Hank. I think the good does us a whole lot better than the bad. I think we should.
I would like to think that eventually
good.
that's all going to work out and this, that, and the other. I mean, we voted overwhelmingly to have that. Let's give it a chance.
That's right. I agree.
Get it worked out, and you can't imagine that that they had a switch out there. They were going to just flip, and we were going to have service.
That's right.
And this whole idea that well then they'll just bury charter, and they're not going to bury charter. I mean, AT&T and all these other, it's all good for us. So anyway, we hope that will eventually work its way out. 19 away from 10. Jim Durrett is our guest. As the weather breaks, we're turning toward rivers and spires here before long. I know the city and the county is very involved in supporting that. How good will that be to have that big free festival downtown and get everybody out? A lot of our troops will be home, and it'll be the first one we have with Strawberry Alley. You looking forward to that?
Oh yeah. Yeah, and Kiwanis is having Porking in the Park on Strawberry Alley, a big barbecue cooking contest. The city.
Are you cooking?
No. City starting in May.
You're depriving this community. You are depriving this community of your wonderful grilling skills.
Well, thank you. But starting in May, the third Friday of every May, the city's going to be having concerts on Strawberry Alley, and I mean, it's just so many good positive things that are going on. But some people want to focus on the negative.
No, we're not. Let's take a call. Good morning. Hello, JZM.
Tim, this is George Fort, long-time citizen of Clarksville.
Hey, George.
I agree with everything that's being done, but I have a question I'd like to ask Jim.
Go
Is
ahead.
a master plan being formulated to change the infrastructure of Clarksville, such as our narrow streets, sidewalks, our water and sewer connection being together? And we have a master plan for that. Since we're bringing these things in, we're going to have transportation problems. Our streets are too narrow. We need bridges and roads, and the government will be giving money for that purpose. Do Clarksville have a master plan for those things?
All right, thank you.
Well, it's kind of it's got a whole bunch of issues. There's a whole lot of questions in that phone call. As far as the transportation issues, yes, Clarksville does have a plan. We have a long-range transportation plan. Mr. Fort mentioned something about some of our bridges. They're going to let a contract in June for the Red River Bridge going out Wilma Rudolph Boulevard to widen the old bridge there. We're doing Peachers Mill Road. I think you'll see in the next.
Well, these sidewalks downtown. I mean,
we're doing. We're not building a lot of new sidewalks, but we're correcting a lot of ADA issues. I think in the next couple of months you'll see an announcement from not only the city and the county on some road projects that are going to get turned loose. Some of them are because of the stimulus money, and some of them are through our MPO. So I think we're doing as much as we can with what we've got, and I think we're using our dollars wise. We're requiring sidewalks in new developments now, so we are building the sidewalk network. And at some point in time, we need to take a look and go back into our inner city where there's not sidewalks and construct them.
It is 16 away from 10 on Clarksville in Review. Our guest, Jim Durrett. He is the Chief of Staff at the City of Clarksville. And you can listen online at WJZM.com. Check out the website, will you? And click around. Read This Week in Clarksville. It's a weekly blog, an update of the week's current events. And send us your thoughts and emails, and certainly your suggestions about guests or features or things that we can do here. As we move forward, obviously money is a big deal, even if times were the best they could be. This community always gets pretty up in arms about money and budgets, and you have crafted budgets forever as the street department director of street department. So the city's budget and how to move forward with that. Are we optimistic about being able to shape up a decent budget for the new year? And I know that's several months away, but it's got to be a concern.
Oh, it's definitely a concern. And we in our department head meeting last week, we discussed budgets a little bit, and this year, in the current fiscal year that we're in right now, there was a lot of concern about fuel, and now that fuel situation is going to result in some savings in this year's budget. But the flip side of that is the street department, for example. Their energy charges for their street lights, they're going to be about $120,000 short. They've had 2 increases during this fiscal year, and so it's going to be a challenging year. It really is. And I tell you, Hank, I don't know that the people of Clarksville realize the quality of department heads that we have, and I include Rick Ingram in that.
Absolutely.
We've got some good people, we've got some caring people, and we've got some people that are very fiscally responsible, and they're just doing an awesome job. They really are.
This past week was our monthly city council meeting, and they did away with the disciplinary process, the 3-man panel, the 3-person panel. And you can speak on it with some authority, having been a department head for so long. That process seemed to be, a step in the process for an employee to have his case heard and this, that, and the other. What I always found curious about it, even long before they made a change, was what was the point if the mayor's office, and whoever the mayor could be, could either agree or disagree with that decision. And it seemed that there had been many a disciplinary hearing that were quite newsworthy, you know? And even a current city councilman had his brief day through that process, and we're still dealing with that lawsuit. 8-4 the vote, or was it 8-5 or 8-4? I think anyway, the council decided to do away with that.
Right.
I was curious, and I respect their opinion to vote against it, that they don't agree. But if ultimately the mayor makes the decision one way or the other, the city attorney said that it would open us to more litigation. You support that?
Yeah, because I support our charter, and that's what our charter says, is the mayor's the chief executive officer of the city, and the council's the legislative body. The council has a right to set policy, and that is a policy, but then when you get the council involved in it, that becomes more of a day-to-day thing, and it's no... I don't mean that disrespectful to any council member, but it goes back to what I said about the department heads. And I think every department head, if that comes in here, if you ask them that question, the hardest thing they have to do in their whole job, everything they do with, is to terminate or discipline an employee. Nobody likes to do it, but it's just part of what you're charged to do. And I think every one of them will tell you that's the hardest thing to do. So we don't have a lot of vindictive department heads out here that are out here on some political mission. We got people that are out there with their nose to the grindstone doing their job, and if somebody messes up, then they're going to take care of it, and they're going to deal with it fairly, honestly.
As we would expect them to.
Exactly.
That's what they're paid to do.
And if they don't, then we need to get rid of them.
Right. Well, I read and heard, obviously some interesting discussion about it. In fact, there was one vote against it that really surprised me. But, and I respect that. I respect their votes and their opinions. But to me, in my simple mind, something that seems to be so clear-cut. Here the city has done their homework on this issue. It had been recommended from study outside of the city about doing away with this and so forth, and why this would lead to more problems for the city if you continue to do that. We're currently involved in a prime example of how that could lead to the litigation that was mentioned. But you're comfortable with it. You've been a department head for a long time. It seemed in the past that, all right, this was a way to take that monkey off the mayor's back, because we know typically in politics they have to be as politically balanced as they can be. So, as for example, a situation where they support the termination, it was easy for the mayor's office to say, well, that's what they just said, and I agree.
Right.
So now we don't have that situation, and so if a department head terminates an employee, it has to be signed off by the mayor. It doesn't go through that process, the way I understand it?
Yeah, I mean, it's some new steps that are involved before a department head can terminate or recommend there's all these different things, a reduction in pay, a suspension, a demotion, a termination. Before any of that happens, it has to go to HR, who are the professionals, who that's what they're paid to do, is to make sure that due process has been afforded to the employee and that the discipline is fair and consistent. And so once that's signed off, then the department head can issue the disciplinary action. And if the employee chooses to appeal it, then it's appealed to the mayor. And that, I mean, when they run for office, that's part of what they sign on for. That whether it's easy or hard, they are the ultimate decision maker for the city, and so I think they should be. I don't think you should have a step in between to give them a break, regardless of who the mayor is. I mean, that's what they're paid to do. That's what they're elected to do.
Jim Durrett is our guest, and of course that will begin, I guess, effective new fiscal year or immediately?
The policy goes in effect immediately. Yeah.
They have had to deal with some rather controversial zoning issues. We know that zoning issues are just, it amazes me to see the number of zoning issues that come up before the city and the county. It also amazes me at how the Planning Commission, for heaven's sakes, can get to all that. And that's a good thing. I'm not saying that it's wrong. It's a good thing that we have this progress and folks are wanting to develop and to build and to do this and whatever. But it came up, seemed like, was it a week or so ago, about providing, and before I get to the zoning things, but providing water service outside the city.
Right. Yeah,
is that a fairly common practice to do that? I mean,
yeah, it's been
provide water service to somewhere out of the city limits.
Right. It used to, and it's Hank. That could be a whole show. It's a lot of history there. We used to have the blue coupons. And that's where the developers would get blue coupons, and they'd get tap fees, and that would reimburse them for some of their costs associated with it, extending that utility out into the county. Blue coupons aren't anymore, so if somebody extends a utility into the county, they have to pay for it 100%, and the city gets all the revenue off of it. But the issue that Gas and Water has with it is we are the pump station capital of the world, probably, with all these lift stations that we have. And typically you don't want that, because that's just an added expense for you. So what they're doing is, if you're developing in this drainage basin and there's already a utility going out there, then Gas and Water, if capacity's there, and if it's capacity related and it's a financially viable project for Gas and Water, then they'll allow you to extend it. But if somebody's going to go out there and build a lift station and pump sewer from one point to another, they're not going to approve it, because they don't want any more lift stations. It's not a financially viable project for the city.
Explain briefly what a lift station is so they'll know.
Well, it's where typically in a sanitary sewer situation, you want everything to flow by gravity. In other words, the pipe's got so much drop in it and everything flows by gravity. But what happens is in so many of these areas, you can't gravity flow it, so all the sewer flows by gravity to a pump station or a lift station, and then it pumps or lifts it, so to speak, over a ridge, pumps it through a hill, something like that, to another gravity situation, and then it may go to 5 miles gravity and then go to another pump station. Let me just say one thing. I know we're about to run out of time, and I probably shouldn't say this, but a lot of the problems that we have at the sewer plant, we hear all these complaints about the odor. A lot of that, if not the majority of it, goes back to lift stations, because what happens is you have this sewer that comes into these lift stations, and it may sit there for hours. It could sit there for days in these big holding tanks, and then it's pumped, and it becomes septic, and that.
And such is the ambiance of Pratt Street and Riverside, and
it's such a good word. Such a good word.
I'm a guy of words. The Kenwood lift, or the Kenwood pumping station that had been in
the moratorium out there.
Whatever. Yeah. Where is that at, and where is progress on getting that?
It's lifted.
It's done.
Yeah, Gas and Water took some.
I know the moratorium's lifted, but wasn't there a need to fix?
There was, and they took some. They did a short-term fix, which in the long run is going to be a better fix, because it's going to allow, as that area develops out there, it's going to allow some to go. They can take the sewer either way, down either one of these basin drains, and so. Yeah, I think we've got that problem resolved.
Oh, that's good. That's good. And are you seeing more activity, more development, more? I don't know. It seems like with the economy, you don't hear a whole lot about development and house building and this, that, and the other. But is the city seeing seeing any change in activity, good, bad, or indifferent?
Yeah, I think we're starting to see a little bit more activity. I had lunch with a guy this week. He said he works at a building supply store, and he said one of his customers sold 3 houses last weekend.
Yeah. Cool. Let's take a call. Good morning. Hello, JZM.
Yes, good morning, Hank.
How you doing?
Fine. I got a quick question for Mr. Durrett. Mr. Durrett, can you hear me?
Yeah, he's there. It's Durrett.
Okay, listen, we have a mayor pro temp. Is that still Ms. Johnson?
No, sir. It's Councilman Wallace Red.
Councilman Wallace Red. Okay, so who is the vice mayor?
There's not a vice mayor. The mayor pro tem is, according to our charter, in case that our mayor becomes incapacitated, out of town, or something like that, and there takes an executive order or some executive decision, that falls to the mayor pro tem.
I understand that, but the reason I ask the question is because, you know, we have the mayor pro tem, the chief of staff, and then I saw in the newspaper an article, and they mentioned the word vice mayor. So I said, wow, the chain of command is getting bigger, it seems like.
No, sir. I guess you could say the mayor pro tem and the vice mayor are one and the same.
All right. Thanks for your call. Appreciate it. Once again, my world hangs in the balance on what I read in the paper. I mean, you know, look, I have great relations with the paper. They do a great job on a lot of things, but they're like we are and anyone else. They're human. They make mistakes. There is no vice mayor. Now, there are some mayors who have vices, but not speaking of the current political situation. But I'm looking at Jim Durrett, who I've known forever, and we each have a book on each other. That's why we get along so well.
That's right.
You remember 1981? I sure do. Don't tell nobody. The future, why does your name always pop up in coffee shop talk about running for mayor and politics and all that?
I don't know. I guess it's good gossip.
People are wishful thinking, or, you know, do you have a vibe for that? Your family's rich in political history here, in public service. Is there a reason why your name keeps popping up around circles about, well, you know, Durrett's running? You know, Durrett's name's in the hot.
I can't answer that. I mean, I've had a lot of people ask me about it, but, you know, I can't answer why it keeps popping up. Maybe because of, you know, whether it's good or bad, my name appears in the paper some, and you start associating a name with the mayor's office and that type stuff. But, you know, it's something I've thought about, Hank. You know, we'll just, I don't know. Have to see what the future holds.
Well, it's, you know, in my opinion, obviously, I'd be a big fan of yours if you did run for mayor. I've known you long enough to know that you'd be and you're not going to announce it, and here's my endorsement. I think you'd do great. The mayor, Mayor Piper, has obviously had friends raising money for a possible run for re-election. And so after that, I know a lot of us, I've heard discussion from a lot of folks, you know, wondering where does the future hold for future leadership?
Right.
And I think that's where your name pops up, is that, you know, wishful thinking on behalf of so many folks that, you know, he'd be a good one
Maybe
if we
one
could talk
day.
him into running. Good morning. Hello, JZM.
Good morning. This is David Allen. How are you this morning?
Hey, Pastor Allen, go ahead.
Doing good. I just want to let citizens know how blessed we are to have Jim Durrett as chief of staff. He does a wonderful job, and a lot of things to go on in the city. He didn't get the accolades for it, but he's behind the scenes working hard, and we're just thankful for him.
Alan, thank you, sir.
All right. Appreciate your call, Pastor Allen, who was just here last week. And listen, while you're with us this morning, Pastor Allen, get on that racetrack deal, dude. This guy's going to call me back in a minute going, y'all ain't done nothing. You know, still loud and crazy.
We're going to get on it Monday morning, I promise you.
Yeah, okay. I'm sure you are. He will. I know he will. Well, listen, I appreciate you coming in. And,
I appreciate the invite.
In the immediate future, obviously, we've got a lot going on downtown. We have a lot going on in the community. We have a lot of the soldiers coming home to families and to our community, who we hope is part of their family. So it's an exciting time. Obviously, we're all looking for the things we can reach out and touch and feel and see about the HSC announcement and so forth. And that'll be an exciting period when that gets here. And so any other final comments before you go? You're not going to give up your favorite fishing hole day, are you?
No, I'm not going to give it up. I'm probably not going to show it to Gary. He needs to start getting ready for that rodeo he's going to have in his backyard.
Yeah, exactly. Because we really don't know. Someone asked me the other day, where's the rodeo going to be? And it's obviously not going to be down at the fairgrounds. So
yeah, it's 25th anniversary, too. They're going to have it, and it's going to be somewhere, and it's going to be big and good.
Well, that's cool. Well, Jim, thanks so much for coming in. And like Pastor Allen said, I know everyone appreciates what you do, even though you don't care about the publicity, you don't care about the attaboys. You just do what you know what's best for your community. You've done it forever, and we appreciate it, and especially when you come in on your day off.
Well, I appreciate it.
Because I know you got a family, and you have a bunch of grandkids and stuff now and all that.
Not a bunch. I got 2.
Yeah, well, see, you told me how old I was. What are you talking about? Aren't you and I about the same age?
They're my pride and joy.
You just look better. So, anyway, Jim Durrett, our guest. Thanks so much, Jim. And we're going to have to chase on out of here, and we appreciate you being with us.